Greetings, podcast listeners. Welcome to a new week of Pride Month. In this episode, I'll be looking at LGBT writers and writing with LGBT content. In a previous episode, I looked at the story of Oscar Wilde, who is an LGBT writer being gay himself. Today, I will be looking at Virginia Woolf. She was a well-known English writer. In fact, she's considered one of the most important modernist 20th century authors, pioneering the use of the stream of consciousness as a narrative device. Virginia Woolf was born in London on the 25th of January 1882. Her most famous works are Mrs. Dalloway from 1925, To the Lighthouse from 1927, Orlando, a biography, the next year, A Room of One's Own in 1929, and The Waves in 1931. Mrs. Dalloway, published in 1925, is based on a fictional high-class society woman in post-World War I England. Over the course of the book, the woman thinks about her choice of husband, wondering if she married the wrong man, even writing that she had not the option to be with a close female friend, Sally Seton. The book also looks at mental illness, specifically the PTSD which a World War I veteran suffers, having hallucinations of his best friend Evans, who died fighting in the war. He spends the day with his wife in the park, until he is sent to a psychiatric hospital, where he commits suicide, jumping out of a window. The high-class woman, Clarissa, hears about his suicide, and actually admires him for doing so, believing that this act was his effort to preserve his happiness that he had prior to the trauma he suffered fighting in the First World War and the death of his best friend. Woolf also explores sex and gender identity in her novels, notably in Orlando. In the book, a nobleman who has served Queen Elizabeth and King Charles II awakens from a long sleep, finding that he has become a woman, while he's the same person, same mind, same thoughts, but in a woman's body. The book explores fashion freedom, I guess, with Orlando, as a woman, switching gender roles, dressing as a man, and a woman, although remaining biologically female. Later in the book, Orlando marries a sea captain, who, like her, does not conform to gender norms. Basically, it's the beginning of the existence of being non-binary and acceptance for it. Clearly, for the era that she was writing in, her content was very liberal and very modern. If you begin to look at her personal life, Woolf was married to Leonard Woolf since 1912, but in 1922 she met writer Vita Sackville-West, and they had an affair lasting a number of years actually. Sackville-West had married diplomat Harold Nicholson in 1913, and he, like his wife, also had same-sex affairs outside of their marriage. Prior to meeting Woolf, Sackville-West caused scandal in high society as she eloped to Europe with her lover, Violet Trefusis, spending 2 years on the run together until they were brought back to England by disgruntled family members. After Virginia and Vita met in 1922, their relationship was very passionate and very sexual, and they were actually quite open about it, as there was no law saying female homosexuality was illegal. Virginia was likely bisexual, and she still loved her husband Leonard, who did not object to his wife's relationship with Vita, seeing that they had a huge impact on his wife's life and her work. She remained married to her husband until 1941, although despite her wishes, they did not have children, because her husband feared that it would further damage her mental health. In fact, Woolf suffered from depression and bipolar disorder, and she was treated for mental illness a number of times. Sadly, on the 28th of March 1941, she died at the age of 59, committing suicide by filling her pockets with rocks and drowning in a river. Secondly, I want to talk about Dame Carol Ann Duffy. She was born in Glasgow on the 23rd of December 1955. She is a professor of contemporary poetry at Manchester Metropolitan University and was appointed Poet Laureate of the United Kingdom in May 2009 and resigned from the position on the 10th of May 2019. She is the first woman, Scottish-born poet, and the first known LGBT poet to hold the position. She is best known for writing love poems in the form of monologues. Her poetry collections include Standing Female Nude, published in 1985, The Other Country, published in 1990, The World's Wife, published in 1999, and Rapture, published in 2005. Aside from poems, she has also written plays, including Take My Husband in 1982 and Little Women, Big Boys in 1986. One of her poems is called Gay Love, published on June 16, 2016, in response to the Orlando shooting at the gay nightclub Pulse that killed 49 members of the LGBTQ community 4 days prior. I shall read this poem now. The writer is gay, and the priest in the love of his church kneeling to pray. The farmer is gay, baling the gold hay out in the fields, and the teacher cycling to school each day. The politician is gay, though he fears to say, knotting his tongue, his tie, and the doctor is gay, taking your human pulse in her calm way. The scientist is gay, folding the origami of DNA, and the judge in his grey wig is gay. The actress is gay, spotlit in the smash hit play. The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, our children are gay, and God is gay. The poem Gay Love became known as it celebrated how diverse the LGBTQ community is, and the fact that anyone can be a part of the community, because it's integrated in society, simply because people are born that way. It was brought to light due to criticism, especially for the last line, which said, God is gay, angering churches and religious people. The last line could simply be referring to Imago Dei, that we are made in God's image. God is gay because he made us gay. God is gay because God is many things at once, and God does not just have one identity. In terms of her personal life, Duffy herself identifies as a lesbian, although she has a child from a previous relationship with a man in her 90s. She had a 15-year relationship with fellow poet Jackie Kay, which began in the 90s, who has been the Poet Laureate of Scotland since 2016 and was made a Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 2020. Kay also identifies as a lesbian. Thank you for listening to another episode of my LGBTQ+ education series. In the next episode, I'll be looking at reporting of the LGBTQ+ community in the news. Please subscribe to be notified, and share my podcast with your friends and family to share an LGBTQ+ education. Thanks again. Bye!